Four, three, two, one. Hi, everybody. This is Robert Linkle, and this is Aging with Strength podcast number 10. The topic of today that we are going to discuss are the two secret components that are required or that you should include in every single workout that you do. And we're going to kind of dive right into that. And I've got a whole bunch of video to show you as we go through that. What these two components are. So there are many experts in our industry that have guidelines, suggestions, blueprints, philosophies on how to train, and I think they're all fairly good, and I think they all have thought and process and program education behind them. And when I talk about the two secret components that we're missing, it's really two areas of emphasis is what I really should say that need to be addressed within each of those philosophies. So it's pretty much included in every one. It's almost included in every single movement that you do. And once we kind of go through this and you start to understand a little bit what I'm talking about, I think you'll see what I'm talking about as far as the value to that, but also how it can be incorporated into every movement, not just every workout that you do. So when we look at two of the biggest issues, this is something that I love to tell my clients, and they ask, like, why are we doing this? Which is one of my favorite questions. I say, and this is just kind of an estimate or guesstimate, that 80% of physical limitations can be fixed if we address two things, and these are the two. If we work on their retraction strength, their ability to retract their shoulder blades and to hold their posture in a good upright position. So if you think of the scapula on the backside of the body, and the muscles in between there, the rhomboids that help them move and retract and rotate and such. And then above that, you have posterior delt and all the rotator cuff muscles, and you have the lats that come up on the outside. And so these are all postural muscles for the most part, the traps at the top, that are all responsible for helping you stand with a really good posture and to move your shoulder blades and to set the foundation for which your arms are moving inside the socket. And so when we sit all day long, when we type, when we text, when we do all these things where our shoulders are more encouraged, or because we're not thinking or emphasizing it and not addressing the top of mind awareness idea of standing with a good posture because we're anteriorly dominant and rolling in that direction, these musculatures, especially the rhomboids, they get stretched and elongated. And that's where you see kind of like that hunchback, that bit of a hunchback position, that thoracic curving up of the middle to upper back, where we're starting to get this rounding, especially as we age. It becomes a really big problem, and it becomes harder and harder to revert or to fix as time goes on. So this is something we can start to address, and I'll show you video examples here in just a second. If this is something we can start to address with almost every single movement, not just walking, standing, carrying, but with everything that we're doing, working on that retraction strength to help bring that shoulder, that musculature back into alignment to help set the sternum nice and high, I think a lot of shoulder injuries can be avoided. The second one is the other socket, is down to the hip and working on proper hip mechanics or hinging ability / hinging strength. And if you think about, the majority of all of our movement, if not all, that has any kind of locomotion to it in the standing or propelling positions, the majority of that movement comes from the lumbar being stable and the hips moving, underneath that. So if we can work with our clients in building, glute strength, hip stability, lower back, middle back, lumbar spine and such, strength around all these areas, mostly posterior chain for the most part, and the thighs and such, then I think we could address a lot of the hip, maybe even the knee, but definitely the hip and the back issues that start to occur with the majority of our clients, because we walk in a sagittal plane in a forward direction so often, and we are so quad dominant with that. With walking, it's mostly quad dominant that propels us. The hamstrings, the glutes are more of a muscular endurance based, a postural muscle groups that hold us upright. They don't do a whole lot of power production when walking and going up steps. It's almost all quad unless the steps are very high where the glutes get involved. So because of these quad dominance, anterior dominant, pec dominance, all this anterior based musculature being overdeveloped, we basically need to address heavily the backside of the body to do that, right? So the two things we need to address in each of our workouts is setting the foundation for shoulder retraction and building that strength to set. If we can do that 2-3 times a week, if not more, and then bring a lot of attention and education to our clients about this over and over again. I don't know if you guys have seen Meet the Fockers, but Robert De Niro and his wife, I don't know the actress that plays his wife, but every time he starts to get personal, or he starts to attack Greg on being a nurse or any of this, she goes, muskrat. And that is the key word. That is the word that's supposed to remind him that he's basically being a pain in the ass, that he's overstepping his boundaries, and he needs to reel it back in. And so we have little muskrat words like that with our clients in the gym that remind them every time I say something like that. We have peaches, we have muskrat, we have different components that even just little taps where we'll come up and do a little on their shoulder, and you'll see them immediately straighten up and their shoulders will pop back. Or I'll yell out that, stand at attention, or whatever cues we're using for a specific client or specific group, you see that correction made. And so this occurs over and over again. And I tell my clients, I want to be the angel on your shoulder, or in some cases the devil. Probably most of our clients, I'm the devil, in a good mindset, I hope. That is reminding them, it's always on their shoulder, saying, here's, in this movement you're doing, picking up your kids, carrying this groceries, standing here for this long period of time, working at your desk, whatever it is, to get your shoulders in the right alignment. And then on the other side of this is not to bend over when picking up things or carrying things, but to hinge to get these things. So these are the two mechanics, the two components we really need to address with our clients. So I'm going to share my screen out here, and I want to show you a couple of these videos as I go. All right, so the first one, I'm going to show you what we're talking about, retraction strength. This is proper. This is board. Okay, so take a look at this and watch your shoulder blades here. So as she's pulling down here, I filmed this today, so this is fresh. These are vertical, we call it progressive resistance vertical pulls. And more or less, we're simulating chin-ups for our clients. And the majority of our clients, we're not putting them up in boxes. We're not asking them to put their feet into bands to help with chin-ups. It's just not that important for us to actually be able to perform them, but I want to work that muscle group. So we hang up pretty heavy bands. Notice Lauren next to her there. He's got an 1.5-inch band. I mean, we had all the way up to 3-inch bands down there for big guys like Steve right there walking by. We had pretty heavy bands for them to pull down on. And notice Elizabeth, I haven't cued her yet, but if you watch her rhomboids, you can see her scapula really well. She's fairly lean. You can see that it's engaging, right? She's getting some good extension up here at the top, and you see the scapula slide up. And then on the pull down, it does retract, and it does rotate, and it gets back into that good position there. And she's holding her chest up at the bottom. She's definitely cueing on what we're doing. We're trying to keep 3-4 inches of separation in the hands, and she's separating and pulling down at the same time. But kind of keep a visual of this, okay? The center bit, how much is her scapula really moving before she engages on the pull down, okay? So now when I jump back to the other one, we call that the no retraction. Now here's the proper retraction. So notice the scapula, it retracts and then she pulls down. Now I've cued her, and I showed her the video of the one I just showed you, and the minimal amount of retraction that she's getting, where she's pulling the shoulder blades together before she engages on the pull down. So you really see it coming down now, okay? Right here in the center, you can see this whole space. She gets good extension and comes down. It really sets. We're trying to get her to retract first and then perform the pull down. And so this is a 1-2 step kind of teaching component. And as we do more of these and more of these, she'll kind of make that a fluent motion of just, this is the way that I row. I retract my scapula first, and then I do the pull down, okay? We see this here as well. All right, here she is doing, this is a hinge, same day, or just earlier today. This is a band progressive hinge. It's self-anchored, so she's standing on the band. And as she stands up, we're working on with her, not really shrugging, but just working on engaging the retraction. Our whole workout today, we had 7 exercises, and every one we were cueing this, because we're seeing the majority of our clients have either neutral shoulders, which I would say is less than the majority of the minority of them. Then the majority have anteriorly dominant shoulders. And if you can envision where the coracoid, you wouldn't see it from this angle, but if you can imagine where the coracoid process, that little J hook that sits in the front of the shoulder where the bicep originates and such, and the pec inserts, that ideally, if the shoulder alignment is right, the coracoid should like point at each other, okay, that way, towards each other as they're sitting in the front, if not forward a little bit. And the majority of people's point internal, like they rotate all the way in. And so these these musculatures that we do, these efforts basically of building this musculature over and over and over again, we think, okay, we're rowing or we're shrugging and it's working on those muscles. But is it getting exactly what we need? Are we really making the best of it? I'm not a huge fan of that's better than nothing mindset. I would rather you do a little less really well than do a lot half-ass or poorly. And that's from, speaking from a body that was abused for many, many years, of really not knowing the best way to do it and just figuring I'll do more to make myself better at this. So we're really emphasizing the hinge of the RDL. She gets a good hamstring stretch at the top while she's holding the tension. She's retracting her shoulder blades, getting that big squeeze. Notice her sternum lifts up every time she does that. So we're really addressing the posture and the posterior aspect of this, okay? So now when we move down, actually, let me show you one more here. Another drill that we do. So here's Lori. She gets a good, this is just a simple band pull apart. We pull until the band hits your chest. I got this from John Russin, really big fan of the stuff that he puts out. But notice you can see her rhomboids really getting active in there. She's getting some good protraction retractions coming in there, and she's just got it set and tight the whole time. But the first thing that we worked on, see right there when she relaxed at the end, she let them out. When we started, I wish I would have had the video start a little bit sooner, like I would have got it before she started, because she had them out, and then she really retracts and pulls them back, and she's just keeping them there. Now watch when she gets done here. I think this is her last one. She lets it out. See how they flare out like that? That's her regular position. So what we're working on is getting that retraction back and then doing the movement. In the last video, I don't know if you guys saw Steve on the side, but maybe it wasn't Steve. I don't remember. Sorry about the kids screaming in the background. There's a huge storm here, and the kids have been locked inside all day, so they're having a fit. Even here with these shoulder raises, front and lateral, oh boy, somebody's really having a fit out there. These front and lateral, we're working on retracting those shoulder blades back before the lateral raise occurs. So we can address this in pretty much every movement, right? Okay, then we come down into our hinges, and this addresses both. This exercise does both. So this is my 9-10 o'clock group. There's a little overlap, and we're just working on these self anchors. And it would pay attention here to Donna. This is the one in the front here. She's really having a hard time not doing like a roll or a vertical shrug. And I'm cueing her, if I have the volume on here, also with Karen, you see her here in the center. She's trying to listen to my instruction as I'm cueing her on how to get the retraction going on her shoulders. If you watch the gal in the pink here in the red in the front, okay, she's really struggling, trying to figure out, like, where are my shoulders supposed to go? Is he wanting up? Is he wanting back? Do I just pull them straight back? And then watch her neck. Look at her sternocleidomastoid, her jaw, like everything's just lit up. She's really struggling and trying so hard to do this correctly. And, excuse me. And then look at Jerry back here in the corner. This is a seasoned client who's been doing this for years. This is a Donna in front client who's been doing this for a couple of months. And Susan back here in the back in the gray. Look how confident and easy their hinges are, how good their shrugs come up and back. Watch Jerry's chest, this big proud peacock chest when he comes up. Watch Susan come up, retract those shoulders up and behind her ears. That's just months and years really for these two of practice. So a brand new rookie here in the center, completely learning like day one how to do this movement. Susan and Jerry on the sides, multiple year, 5-6 year vets, been working with me. And Donna's maybe 2 or 3 months ahead of Karen here in the front, who's got a decent hinge. She's figuring things out, but struggling with the shoulder, what musculature we're getting. So slow practicing the hinge, the retraction, all posterior side. As the body gets more vulnerable, you're in a hinge. As it gets more vulnerable, the band gets lighter, so it's a little bit safer, a little more comfortable to perform versus load a dumbbell that's just always the same weight or a barbell. And then as we get into a more vertical and a more safe, if you will, position, the band tightens up and gives a greater tension to it. So here's one last bit. It's kind of a combo of the two now. We've taken our progressive load and we've added to a bar. And again, if I'm playing the volume on this, you'll hear me cueing her. This is Erna. You'll hear me cueing her as she comes up, of shrugging up and backwards and getting those shoulder blades and her rhomboids, almost like we're trying to bring her shoulders up to touch behind her ears, her rhomboids to squeeze together. And I use that cue, like pretend you're holding a magic marker between your shoulder blades, okay? Get up there and squeeze and pinch those backwards. It's never a rolling action. It's never a forward action. Everything is working on this backside aspect. So when you think about movements, really any hinge, any upper body exercise that you're doing, the majority of what you're trying to work on can be addressed and put into can be put into almost every single exercise. Where are the shoulders set? Where are your hips being set? You're doing goblet squats, setting those shoulders back, working on the retraction, setting the core up tight, and then getting into that good hip displacement, moving the hips back, and then performing your squat. Lunges, same thing. Even bench press, bridges, ones where you're laying on your back, you still have to set the scapula, set those shoulder blades together, create the platform, as we call it, to perform that movement. So it's not just during shoulder and leg day that we address these issues. These are all the time things that you need to address as often as possible with every movement that you do. And I think it will help you drastically, okay, if you're able to incorporate that and do this. I don't know how to get back to my main camera where I fill up the whole screen, but so you just have to deal with me here. Let me try this one. I got nothing there. All right. Hope you don't mind seeing my screen. Anyway, that's pretty much the gist of what we're talking about today, or the two secret components, as I talked about. Not really a secret, just kind of something that you need to place more emphasis on, something that we could address. It's going to have a drastic impact on your posture, on your hip health, your shoulder health, how you're carrying your body and carrying any kind of load within really any movement, any direction that you're doing. Start to think about and be aware of this. TOA, top of mind awareness. You know, that's the best example I can give you is the spider crawling on your leg, crawling on your arm. You don't really realize it's there until you see it out of the corner of your eye, and you shoot away, or you do whatever you do with it. And then your senses now are aware of there was something crawling on me. So now your back is itchy and your neck is itchy, and you are now, the top of your mind is aware to your dermal layer. You're thinking about all of your skin and what am I feeling. Now, before that, it wasn't on the top of your mind, so you felt nothing. You didn't feel the spider crawling all the way up onto you until that moment where it got so great you were aware of it or you saw it. Now, everything is alert. So if we take that mindset, okay, the top of mind awareness, the constant awareness of where is my posture when I'm standing here, I'm watching this webinar or this webcast, when I'm walking with my kids, when I'm carrying in the groceries, all of this, it all applies. It all comes back to proper alignment as often as you can, every day, every moment. And I really think that should address and help quite a few people in their pursuit of improving their body, improving their strength, their health, reducing some of their pain levels. So this is Aging with Strength webcast number 10. The two secret components, or the emphasis that you need to address in your workout. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comment below, and please share this out. And if you are new and watching for the first time, please do subscribe, as I post at least weekly a new video or new webcast for you to check out. Also, if you have other questions about training the older adult, go to trainingtheolderadult.com and you will see all of our information, including our webinar series on there. All right, everybody, have a good one. Thank you very much. Take care.